I think I need to start saving for now. All right, now next question. If let's say the property is available, usually what are the timeline for a Singapore PR to actually complete the whole transaction and get their, dream home?
Yeah, so buying a property in Singapore is very safe. I would say that it's extremely safe because there are always two lawyers governing the whole transaction, and of course the lawyers in terms of the framework is also being governed by our local government to make sure that all transactions are secured, all transactions are legalized as well in terms of property transactions. So when let's say you purchase a property from the resale market, the seller will have their own lawyer to represent them. You as a buyer, you also need to appoint a lawyer to represent you in the transaction. So the two lawyers will liaise together, and the whole process typically takes between 10 to 14 weeks. So it's a combination of two phases. The very first phase is that once you, let's say, identify a property after negotiation and you put down a 1% option fee to the seller will then issue you a signed contract to say that this property is sold to you. You have the next 14 to 21 days, we call that the option period, to get your loan sorted out and to appoint a lawyer. So once you have your loan signed already, you confirm that you can get a loan, you can go back to your law firm, put out another 4% to be paid to the seller, and that is being governed into a CVY account to ensure that lawyers don't run away with your deposit. Yeah, okay. So it's extremely safe. And from that point of paying the 4%, usually in another 8 to 10 weeks, you'll be able to get the keys to your new place. So I would say it's about a 10 to maybe about 14-week process. So it's pretty straightforward when you purchase a property in Singapore.
Okay. I think the next question, more or less, just how you did mention. I believe that a foreigner can own more than one property. But the consequences is?
So foreigners are welcome to own multiple properties. Just like if you're a Singapore citizen or PR, it's just that every property that you buy, as long as it's a residential status, you do need to pay a 30% ABSD on every property count. So let's say you purchase the first property, you pay additional 30%, second one also additional 30%, third one also additional 30%. However, there are certain kinds of properties that do not attract additional buyer stamp duty, and that will be commercial property. So for example, if you were to purchase any properties, for example like an office or maybe like a pure shop house that is of a full commercial status, then you do not need to incur additional buyer stamp duty. You can just buy with the normal buyer stamp duty involved, which is a 4%. So I would say that the commercial properties in recent years, it has also attracted a lot of interest from foreign investors as well. Usually they purchase commercial properties after they own their first residential property, they settle down their family, and then they will start to hunt for additional commercial properties.
Nice. So some of you will have a good tips, if you want, then go for a commercial property and you know who to find. Now the next question is very important, right? So what are the 3 tips to look out for when engaging a property agent?
Okay. Very good question. I would say that the very first thing is to make sure that before you officially engage a property agent, do understand how the framework and how the climate in Singapore works when you partner with a property agent to hunt for your first property. So note that there are different ways of working with property agents. Usually, most agents, if let's say they want to commit the next 2 to 3 months to help you to secure a property, bring you out for viewings, fetch you around different estates or different districts to look for condominiums and things like that, they do require an official engagement contract to be signed with them so that both parties are committed to the engagement. And it will be important to make sure that firstly, you can check the experience level of your real estate agent. You can ask very specific questions like where do they specialize? Are they specialized more in serving purchasers, or are they specialized in serving more of home sellers? Because you also want to know, like in terms of commitment level, are they able to give you time every weekend or maybe during certain weekdays to go out and hunt for property? So I would say that a very good communication with your potential working partner will be important. Number 2 is to know their areas of specialty. Number 3 is that you can also check with them, like in the event if you do engage them, what will be the list of services and expertise that they will offer to you? Like, would they be helping you to make sure that you don't enter at the wrong pricing? Would they help you to check the background of the unit? Would they help you to analyze trends and of course in that certain districts, which are the key projects that you should be looking out for? So I think that these few things are extremely important.
Nice.
Yeah.
Melvin, would you like to take this opportunity to share with our viewer how many years of experience you have in this industry?
Okay. Yeah, so I have been doing real estate for the past 15 years, since 2007. Yeah, so PropertyLimBrothers was being formed in 2017. Yeah, so over here we specialize in a lot of different things. I would say that the key thing is that we create a lot of content for our audiences, our home sellers and buyers. We specialize a lot in selling properties very differently with creative marketing and video content. And we have a specialized team that serves our buyers. They are the buyers consultation team. And we use certain analytics and parameters. For example, we have our PLB mode analysis. Is an analytics method to select the right property with 10 different factors. Yeah, so that are some of the key tech tools that we use when we serve our clients to hunt for the right property.
That sounds amazing. So you know who to find. Yeah. So next questions. Should I buy a 99-year leasehold or freehold property?
Okay. Yeah, very common question as well. In fact, we'll be quite amazed to find out that actually in Singapore, most of the properties are freehold properties. In fact, through the British colonial days until today, a lot of properties are being earmarked as freehold land tenure. It's just that over the past 30 years, there has been so-called an increase in the amount of 99 years property. But now, if we look at the past 10 years, most of the government land sales, there has been primarily 99 years lease tenure. But in Singapore, there is something that is very different from the rest of the world, is that when we look at the valuation of our properties, when we talk about private properties, valuers and banks, they focus more on transaction volume rather than just purely looking at the land tenure. Yeah, so two parameters again. Number one is to observe the ballast curve. So when you're hunting for a 99 years property, you want to take note of a few key stages of the 99 years property. First key stage is that when there is less than 60 years tenure, there will be a slight affection in the valuation of the property, because once a 99 years property drop below 60 years balance lease, the amount of CPF usage that the next buyer can use will be a little bit more limited. Then once it drops below 30 years, no banks will loan in terms of the mortgage. Yeah, and also note that once it drops to zero, the value becomes zero. For freehold property, of course, it is an eternal thing. There's no limitation. But in terms of performance, some 99 years perform better than freehold property in terms of appreciation, simply because they are of a larger scale. There are more units in that project. There are more transaction volume. So some you'll be amazed to see that some 99 properties they appreciate more than freehold and faster than freehold properties at times. Yeah, so I would say that the most important thing is to really look at a combination of factors before you decide whether you want to get this project with 99 or that project with freehold status.
Got it. So I guess like you also have to see location, not just freehold and leasehold, right?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Now next question: how much I should pay you, right, if you were to assist me with the property transaction?
Yeah, so in Singapore, there are two kinds of property transaction. So if somebody is engaging us to sell their place, our fees ranges between 2 to 3.5%, depending on the intensity of the marketing campaign, depending of course the size of the property. So there are different parameters. For example, like, do we need to do a full home staging for this property? How long will the social media campaign and the budgeting cost and things like that. When it comes to purchase of properties, there's no fees involved. Basically, because in Singapore, the buyer's agents, they are paid through a referral fee system from the seller agent or the developer. However, we do require an exclusive engagement agreement to be signed before we start work. So usually when we are serving our purchasers or our home sellers, we do require an exclusive appointment before we kickstart all the analysis and research and of course the marketing.
Of course. Now, just now we heard the 3 tips to look out for when choosing a property agent.
Yeah.
What about 3 tips to look out for when buying a property?
Okay, so 3 tips is that number 1, before you commit to a property, always do enough research, because research is extremely important when you want to determine the potential price that you should offer for the place. So research in terms of pricing strategy on the entry price will then circulate between the past transactions of let's say within a kilometers from this project that you want to make an offer. Second one will be, you need to check what is the current bank valuation with a few bankers, because the bank valuation determines the amount that you can loan. You wouldn't want to pay for, let's say, a property that the seller is asking for $2 million, and then later you find out that actually the bank valuation is only $1.8 million. Because if that happens, you do have to top up $200,000 on top of the valuation to the seller. So number 2 is to make sure that the valuation matches the price that you're going to offer. Number 3 is that do take note of a combination of factors that might affect you not being able to exit faster, let's say after 3, 5 or 8 years time. If you want to sell a property, you want to make sure that there's a ready audience that loves your property. So you want to be able to buy something that you know that 5 years later or 8 years later, once let's say your kids changes school, you want to move to a different district, you want to make sure that this 3 or 4 bedder or penthouse that you purchased is sought after by different types of buyers. Yeah, so the homework is extremely important, and to also ensure that there's enough volume and transactions circulating around that project. So because the volume and transactions affects the valuation growth as well. Yeah.
Thanks for the great tips. Last but not least, can a foreigner purchase a conservation status property?
Yeah, definitely can. Yeah, so they can purchase shop houses that are of conservation status. Usually, I would say conservation status circulates among shop houses. There are also, of course, some residential properties that has conservation status as well. But of course, residential properties definitely will attract ABSD. So if we are just talking about conservation status, there's no restriction to foreign ownership. The only thing that the purchaser has to take note is that for conservation status, you are not allowed to tweak and alter the facade of the building or of the property, because the look and feel must be according to the URA regulations on how they want that row of shop houses to look like. So you can only alter the internal kind of renovation and not the exterior.
Well, Melvin, actually you have answered more than 10 questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
For those of you who are keen to purchase a property in Singapore or considering purchasing a property in Singapore, you know who to look out for. You can reach out to Melvin from PropertyLimBrothers. And for Singapore immigration matters, of course, you reach out to us. So that's all for this week's video. We hope that you have enjoyed the session, and we'll see you next time.